aunt or Tobela or something. Okay, cool. I have been excited about this evening because I've had so many questions about, so what makes us believe that we need property investing? What makes us believe that we can take the step in going into property investing? And in this week itself, I got a question that kind of perplexed me, where there was somebody that asked me, how much do I need to get into property investment and where do I start investing? And I tried to get to the bottom of this particular question, right? And I kind of failed dismally, because the more I tried to unpack it, the more I realized the person that I was speaking to, they themselves had a concept about property investing. So tonight we're really just going to be talking about the best way to gaining clarity to help you take your first step or potentially your next step before entering the property market. Okay, so I do see a person or two coming in and out and in and out. Either which way, we are going to get this baby on the roll, and I'm going to do my best to multitask. So making sure that my phone is off, but where I can see comments, I'm wanting to respond straight away, because last month I did, no, not last month. Yeah, last month I did a live. It went pretty okay. So I'm wanting to say that, I think I'm getting all right with this. Cool. I think I'm getting all right with this whole bit of live streaming on YouTube without just making myself a bit of a poo-poo. But nonetheless, cool. I see there's two people. Two people is enough for me. Even one person is enough for me. So let's get cracking, hey? Because I don't want to be that gal that is just talking and talking and talking, and we're not getting to the crux of things. So I just wanting to go into the presentation that I created this evening, just so that we can follow visually. So I just want to hear from you. Oops, there you just saw the YouTube studio. I just want to hear from you guys in the chat below. Can you hear me? I want to see that you can hear me. That's the most important thing before I think everyone can hear me and I'm blabbering to myself. Cool. I'm gonna wait to see some comments that come through, right? Right. I want to see, can you hear me? Because the most important thing this evening is that you can hear me, right? Today, as I shared, we're going to be talking about gaining clarity. Are you guys shy to type? Please don't be shy to type. The last group that I had was like absolutely thumb happy with responding. I would love that you respond to me. All right. I want to know that you can hear me. That, I think that's the most important thing for me right now, is that you can hear me. And then, okay, Stevens, you are the man. Steven says sound is good. That is my cue. Let's get into it. All right. So this evening, it's taken me all of how many minutes to introduce this evening. But Stevens, you gave me that lifeline to say you can hear me. So happy is me. So welcome to gaining clarity, to taking your first step before, or even your next step before entering into the property investing market. Tonight, I get to unpacking ways of gaining clarity for your personal journey. Property investing fundamentals in property, investments in South Africa as a whole, but just investment as a person, right? And how to establish the best property. So I want to say thank you for joining me, Stevens. Thank you for giving me the heads up that you can hear me. My goal today is really just to assist where I can in helping you to gain crystal clarity as to why you are wanting to get into property investing, right? There's no one size fits all. So I'm going to do this in the best way that I know how. I'm not going to give you instructions. What I would love today is to impart guidelines to you, and guidelines where along the way I will share with you how me and my husband actually decided that property investing, hey, you know what, this thing is working for us, and we're not in fact spinning our wheels. I'll show you a simple strategy that allows you to actually say to yourself, you know what, I really do want to get into the property market now. I want to grow my confidence in finding property opportunities and what I could do with it. I'm ready for this baby now. Okay. So now, if you don't already have property investing education, that's not the point of tonight. The point of tonight is for you gaining clarity. I will talk about the overall strategy of property investment, but the main point is the next, as I share in the next slide, right? Today's discussion, the pinnacle of it all is gaining clarity. What we will also do is we will tap into the overall strategy of any property investment strategy. And there's all these different bullet points like raising funds, the best property investment strategy, property market research. I mean, for the fact that I am on the computer, I will, very intermittently go onto the internet to actually show you what I'm talking about, okay? Learning which numbers actually count, why exit strategies are important, who do you have in your corner, and actually executing the deal. So I really just want to say, you know what, let's help you gain clarity. And I'm not going to take too long in getting to my point. So my request is for the next 30 to 35 minutes, because I'm aiming and I'm setting the bar for about 45 minutes and not to take up too much of your time. So I'm wanting to ask you to try as best as possible to get rid of your distractions. Get ready to take some notes because I do ask questions. But also, this particular video will be left live on YouTube so that you can always scroll back to play back certain questions and whatnot. But you know what, guys? The other thing that I would love, because this is the way we're going to be interacting, right, is that you start asking questions. Just as Stevens gave me the heads up that the sound is clear, I would love that as something comes to mind, ask that question. I can only answer the question in one of two ways. I can say to you, you know what, we're going to cover that one. So hang 10, we're going to cover that particular question. But at the end of the session, I'll always just go back to see if there's any questions that you think, you covered it, but not entirely, then we can go back to it, right? Or if I think it's the appropriate time, I'm going to answer it straight away. There's something I need to make very, very clear this evening. I truly believe that my YouTube channel is my way of giving back. So I want you to feel at home, and I want to make it very clear that we are a tribe together, growing together, and understanding life together, which is why, I mean, this question of actually trying to understand, am I actually going into property investing for the right reasons? Are my reasons founded? Those are the type of things that we're going to be talking about tonight. It's a little bit of deep nyana things, okay? So today's biggest lesson, as I shared, is gaining clarity, because oftentimes we are bombarded with one property guru saying this is the right way, and another one saying no, that's not the right way, this is the right way, and somebody else says no, you're all wrong, this is the right way. I really want you to say, okay, fine, I've heard all the noise, I may have been through the noise, and I just want to get clear on, you know what, guys, just tell me the truth of why you do what you do. But before I get into that, you know what, I always talk about something called the 4-minute mile. And everything that we're going to be talking about this evening, I really think it depicts my husband and my journey. And why I say that is that, for a long time, people did not believe that it was possible to break a mile. Okay. I want to share this quick story with you. On May the 6th in 1965, something really incredible happened. And prior to that, as I was alluding to, decades and decades before that, no one believed that it was physically possible to break the 4-minute mile. But on that day, which is the 6th of May, 1965, Roger said, take that one, baby. Roger Bannister broke it. But you know what is the most fascinating thing for me in this story is that for decades and centuries, nobody believed that you could break the 4-minute mile until Roger did it. But the fascinating thing for me is that just 46 days later, 46 guys, just 46 days later, John Landy, I think this is the way I see it, right? He sat down and he must have thought, Roger, you got this thing in the bag. You know what? If you can do it, surely, man, I can do it. And 46 days later, John Landy broke Roger's record. And I just think to myself, you know how inspiring that is? Because I sat in a free seminar and there was somebody that pitched his lungs out in the front. And I was upset and I was irritable, thinking, oh my gosh, really? 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 This sounds like, really? I was bored. I was irritated. I wanted to slaughter my husband, thinking, could he really have brought me here? Because I didn't see the value of being there, because all I had in front of me is debt. And I want to equate the 4 minute mile to debt, because the first person that decided to go about investing in property in the creative finance, which no money, bad record, and deep in debt, that person, to me, is like a Roger Bannister, because for time before that, people believed it wasn't possible until Roger broke that record, right? And then I want to equate the same in property. When one person thought, you know what, I'm going to break this, everybody else took an example from them. So for decades and decades, people created this creative finance thing. And where I take real solace in this whole story is that until that day, nobody believed it was possible. And for me, until that day of sitting in the free seminar, I thought to myself, yo, we in debt. How? What are we doing here? And it was not long after that day. How we broke our 4 minute mile is that we signed a joint venture deal in property investing. We put a 1,000 Rand deposit down for a whole 2 bed, 1 bath in Kempton Park. And the joint venture was with a fellow student who was looking for deals. And we found a deal, and he had money, and we came together. And on the 4th of August, 2017, that 4 minute mile was broken for us. And I know that there's many people on YouTube, on social media, always talking about use other people's money, use other people's money. In our lives, it is a reality, because we were able to buy property having 5 million debt. So for those that ask me, so what gives you the license to talk about it? Well, I think we did pretty okay until this point, because in December 2016, we got into a room, we were sold hard into property training. And because they said no money down, we got into that class, put our head down 9 to 7 for 3 days. And then we were sold hard into property coaching. And in that time, when we could least afford even to breathe, we made a hustle. And until to date, we spent way over, and I want to take those words back, we invested way over 100,000 in our property investing education, because all of our side hustles prior to that, it did well, it flopped. It did well, it flopped. And you may be asking, 5 million debts, are you cuckoo or something? Well, we went into chicken farming, and in our chicken farming, when everything was going well, it was going well. But when it went south, it went 5 million south. And it was through a side hustle that we got into debt that got us into property investing. And I don't think that's the most conventional way that people go about getting into property investing. And this is where I want to say to you today, gain clarity of why you are looking at the property market as a vehicle to help you get to where you're going to. Because simply put, at the end of the day, we all have a story to tell, but not many people push hard enough to get to the story to tell. You see, Dwayne Johnson, as many of us would know him as The Rock, said, success isn't always about greatness, it's about consistency. And in 2017, we were consistently finding deals. And I can remember at one stage by deal 50, I was so deflated, thinking, is this thing ever going to happen? We will rot in our debt until Jesus comes and all of that. Because this is the negativity I was feeling at that time. And with that, I'm thankful for the 4th of August. It's also my dad's birthday. It's also my niece's birthday. But it's a day that we broke our 4 minute mile within property investing. having signed an offer to purchase, knowing very well we're in 5 million debt. And since then, we've never looked back because you see, when we started investing in or rather, when we started our coaching, which was in February 2017, because we learned that, well, in December and January, all the property investors go on holiday, apparently. This is why we could only start in February. And what we sowed between February and August, the tears, the sweat, the pushing through, the trying to actually get somewhere, right? What we sowed, we kept on saying it will happen. We'll get our breakthrough. The 4th of August happened. But between the 4th of August and December, that is where all those seeds that we sowed between February and August started coming to fruition. And deals, what felt like popcorn for us, was popping because it was, where did this come from? How come this? How come that? And we were trying to gain our feet. And it was in December 2017 that Rita and TJ decided to formulate M5 Property Addicts. So if you don't follow them, go and Google after the session who M5 Property Addicts are, and you will see, ta-da, it was two families coming together to make the best of where they're going to, because our end goal is the same. How we were going to get there, because we were in different places, was different, but we saw synergy. And I call us the Jack Van Rooyens, and other days we're the Van Rooyen Jacks, right? But it was because we were consistent, okay? So here's a couple of questions to think about in gaining clarity. Tell yourself the truth. Why is it that you want to get into property investing? Do you want to get into property investing because somebody promised you glamour? The other day I was a little bit naughty in one of my videos. I'm like, I was sipping on champagne, darling, because so many property gurus actually sell the pipe dream that in 6 months we're going to be, sipping on champagne, popping bottles, and we're going to be retiring. And I mean resigning, not retiring. And I sometimes think that particular way of thinking is so flawed. If you have been working for so long, what makes you think that in 6 months' time, the whole world is going to flip on its head? And just say, for example, let's play devil's advocate here, right? Just say you had won the lotto. You cleared out all your debts and you bought all the properties under the sun, all right? Have you created the right mindset to steer that money? Even when property is paying you and you don't have to do a thing to get it, to get money coming in. Have you really told yourself the truth and your mindset and where you are? Will you, in all honesty, be popping bottles all the time? Will you, in all honesty, be talking about, oh, I do nothing? Really, I want us to gain clarity in us thinking, you know what, let me just tell myself the truth here. What does it look like? The second thing is know what you need versus what you want. Because sometimes I find this in conversation. Some people will say, you know what, I really need to get into property investing because student accommodation is going to give me a lot of money. And if student accommodation gives me a lot of money, I can finally resign from the job. And sometimes this is the person that doesn't even understand the buying process of a property. So I want to rather encourage you, what is it that you need versus what you want? Do you need the confidence from one transaction, right, to help you leverage your next transaction and actually saying to yourself, oh, okay, now that I've been through this process, maybe I can take it to the next level to open myself up to more lessons. Because guys, we either get things right or we learn. School teaches us you either pass or you fail. But life teaches you that you will either pass at something and get it right, which is called success, or you fail. But that's what life says, right? But in failure, what life doesn't teach us is that we actually learn. There's more to learn in failure than there is to learn in success. The third point in gaining clarity is that our belief and values of who we are controls us. However, when our values are in conflict we worry. So what has that got to do with anything, Jen? Think about this. Sometimes you say, "Hey, if I get into property, what's going to happen, guys? If I do this, how come that?" 9 out of 10 times, and this is my opinion, 9 out of 10 times, something called education can take that away. But if there's still more worry, then I want you to evaluate. Now that I've got the education and I'm putting things to the test, why am I worried? Let me give you a quick example. I had a client who was in property investing education, and I worked in the back end and I really helped in terms of coordination because as myself, I'm a standalone company. I do a lot of freelancing because that's what I actually wanted to do. Property is as a byproduct. And working with this client, I said to them, the first quarter, I really don't want to be in the front of anything. I just want to see how you work. And for a long time, I was very, very exhausted after a weekend. And then I said, okay, cool. Now I'm going to switch in the next 3 months and be in training and coaching. And when I was there, the entire time, after those 48 hours of doing a masterclass, I was exhausted, like somebody beat me up. Now here I am teaching, here I am coaching, here I am being in the space of people, here I am sharing that you can do it too. Yeah, I'm doing all the things I love. But you know what? Subconsciously, I worried. Why? Because it was a similar system that I went through in terms of being a student. And I didn't quite like that feeling in hindsight. And I was like, it was my core values messing with me. And I remember pulling myself away from that client. Not that there was something wrong with them, but my core values got me worried. And then when I did any sort of work with clients after that, that entailed the weekend, I in fact helped some clients literally of that 48 to 72 hours after that. I would help some clients, and it happened periodically. And after that 48 to 72 hours, I was least I was least exhausted as I was when my values were in conflict. And I'm trusting that that makes sense because sometimes we are attracted to something for different reasons. And sometimes it's a reason that our value system will not allow us to do things with, right? And the last point on this particular slide is so many people worry about failure. I want to say you can't fail if you don't try. We worried about failure right through our hustles, side hustles, guys. We had an epic fail, okay? But it was our greatest lesson. And it tuned us in such a way that whether in plenty or whether in lack, it was okay. Why? Because we saw this journey of life as a marathon and not a sprint. And when that shift happened, at one given point, I was okay. That when I was in the workplace, I would bring home almost 50K, right? But then when I got into the business world, there were some months I didn't even come close to a fifth of that money. And there's obviously other months that it exceeded. But when you used to having something and it's consistent, you start feeling like when something is not coming through, you're a failure. In fact, that's when I learned from Robert Kiyosaki, my rich dad, who said, you know what? Failure makes you smarter. As I move on, in terms of gaining clarity, these are 3 points I really want to start talking about that's going to pull things apart and really take it to another level in terms of how does gaining clarity go together like this in the property investing market. Firstly, planning. When you plan something, I'm just checking that things are still working here fine. When you plan something, you don't hope for the best. You've got a plan in place, right? So I want you to do this in gaining clarity. Here's a plan. My plan, while we were getting into this idea of property investing, my plan was to go to the seminar, show my husband flames after that because I felt like I was bullied into it. But in all honesty, he didn't bully me into it. But the mind will tell you what the mind will tell you. Ne? After that session, I was the one that spent our bond money to go to the training. And he looked at me as if two birds flew over the cuckoo's nest. And he's like, but babe, we didn't plan for that. We always spoke about we can spend X amount, but when we get to this threshold, we need to have a conversation. So right now you're wanting to pay for training and we can't afford it. And I said, but we can't afford not to. And in that little moment that we had, I did something reckless that I do not. It's a disclaimer, do not do this at home. Don't just be reckless. Because of course I had to deal with the repercussions of that recklessness. We had to make plans and steal from Peter and PayPal and all sorts of stuff, right? To eventually get into catching up with our bond. Some days I think, oh, I should have been more smarter. And another day I was like, I think I was pretty smart. But in your planning, look at your finances because when we were done in that 3-day course, we sat down and we had a hard look at our finances. And we thought, how the heck do we get out of debt fast to be able to afford this coaching? Or do we do something crazy to get the money so that we can afford the coaching? And when we looked at our finances, I, as a person who has been working since the age of 16, and here I am in my late 30s, never having failed this epically before, trying to deal that I'm approaching 40 and this dwang is going down. And I had to acknowledge to myself and look at the debt that we had that was one. I had to look at the debt, then I had to look at my budget, which was two. And I had to ring fence things that I actually didn't need. It was tough, but I needed to do it because my plan was, or our plan was, the more we work hard into this creative finance, we can put monies together and literally pay off big amounts of money. And then we said, actually, you know what we should do? Even though mathematically it makes better sense to pay off the high interest loans first, but psychologically, let's take these sums of money that we get and we pay all these small baby loans and whatever, okay? So that we literally left with these little big monsters, or little big monsters, that we left with these big monsters and actually say, this is how now we will divide the money and start targeting what we need to target. And so that was our plan on now when we get into property investing. Firstly, we understood that we are in the bracket of creative finance. And for those of you that don't know creative finance, it is sourcing, joint ventures, as well as back-to-back deals, going to get angel investors, literally using somebody else's money and you presenting your skill so that you can make a sum of money. Simply, that's a simple way of saying it. There's so much more that goes into it, right? And a lot of people get attracted to property investing because they simply think it's okay to go and find a deal because the investor's going to pay it off. If you don't have your ducks in a row, the investor's going to show you a finger. But nonetheless, in our planning, we needed to understand when money comes in, this is the action plan. That was one. In our planning, when we are looking for properties, this is what we are going to stick to looking at because it can present itself in any one of these creative finance strategies. And that was our plan. And then we needed to say to ourselves, okay, now moving forward, how are we going to handle everything? The second part is implementation. It's easy to talk about something, highlight those hohos on your balance sheet, and then you ask yourself, well, for others, it would just be your bank statement. From a business point of view, your balance sheet. You would then highlight these things and ask yourself, hey, actually, in the grand scheme of life, do I really need DSTV full bouquet when I can get XYZ? I maybe get Netflix because I've already got Wi-Fi in home, and which then means streaming is not an issue. Like you need to have that conversation because when you have it, you implement, right? Which is the second point on here because implementation needs you to have a plan. because you're going to implement what you have forecasted, right? So without a plan, even in property investing, you will end up buying and hoping for the best. Whereas with a plan, if you're busy with property investing, you would have found the deal, you would have run the numbers to understand, am I making money or am I, totally flopping this thing out? So it goes together with implementation. So with the plan, you can go back to the drawing board if something is not working. You can actually say to yourself, I could tweak this or I could tweak that. What is going to work for me? What's not going to work for me? So I had to start canceling stupid things, that I call it stupid things, off of my account. What are the subscriptions that you have that don't matter, right? When I had to cancel that out of because it was part of my plan, I was able to go back to my plan and say, accomplished. What is my next step? Because when you're working out your plan, you need to implement what you're saying and get that thing right. Again, I'll draw comparisons from time to time into property investing. And third, but certainly not least, okay, is cost of indecision. Sometimes you'll say, oh, I've got this beautiful, neat plan, but I don't know how to implement it. The question is, where are you stuck and why are you stuck? Start unpacking why you're stuck. Get a life coach if you needed to. I needed to get a life coach at some given point to understand why was I just not clicking in the property coaching space. Why did it seem like my husband was getting things right and I wasn't? And I felt like this, and I had this victim mentality. And when I got to life coaching and I had gone through a couple of sessions, I then started understanding I'm looking at this as another business venture we're going into. I'm looking at this already failed because we failed in all of these others, and I'm not looking at the opportunity that I learned in all the failures here. And I'm looking at this is just going to end bad like everything else. So I'm already closing myself up. So ask yourself, sometimes when you are undecided, is it because the maybe if it's education you're after, is it because the person that is talking, the educator, is not clicking with you? Then I want to tell you, stop listening to them. Move on to somebody else. Because the nice thing is that you can call the shots of your life. And if you start clicking with somebody, and then you ask yourself, why did I not click with them and I click with this person? Because again, you want to understand when that feeling comes back up again, you can identify it like this. But the cost of indecision will leave you collecting information until Jesus comes and not implementing anything, which will even cost you a whole lot more. Because better that you were ignorant, meaning not knowing, that you didn't have the acumen to know or to apply something, versus knowing you've got the tools, the tricks, you've got the book, you could even write the book and you still haven't done anything. So at the day, inevitably, what I understood from my journey is that had we not gained clarity, we would have not moved to where we are today. Because in December, it is 4 years later. And in 4 years, our business as a property business has like literally metamorphosized. I never saw myself training and teaching in property investing. My dream was, oh, I want to be so accomplished, and maybe in 10 years' time, I will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Until I started hearing people say to me, Jen, you are so brave. At the networking events, you go up there and you talk to us about your deal. You call the return on investment, the strategy, and when you're done there, you've got a whole lot of people around you. I want to do the thing you're doing. You make it look easy. And I'm like, it's not easy. You just have to do it afraid. If you're scared, just do it. Because all you could do is you could succeed or you can learn from it. And I then recall somebody saying, the one thing I wish from you is that you never wait to a point where you forget the fundamentals. And I want you to teach people like me how to do it, because sometimes we don't connect with the big guys. We love to listen to Grant Cardone. I love to listen to GC also. Uncle G is what we call him in the house. I love to listen to Robert Kiyosaki. He too is my teacher. I've been taught under his hand in a space of 1 year, 4 different times in person, not from not like in a room of 5,000. I'm talking about less than 100. I stood on the stage next to him where he petrified me because I felt intimidated by being next to this all encompassing somebody. And because I related to that particular feeling of feeling intimidated next to this great stature, when the person said to me, sometimes we are afraid to move forward because the people that we are standing next to who we want to be like intimidates us by their presence. So sometimes we want people like you that are still on the ground to teach us. And that was like, oh, I didn't see that coming because I was, oh, okay. And for me, what did I need to do after that? I needed to take action to make things work, to make things happen. But never would I have thought the cost of my decision in December 2016 by paying double figure into training room for 3 days and us making a hustle to get the other money of 95,000 to actually get the coaching done, and then subsequent coaching sessions after that, that investment of over 100,000 could inspire somebody else that says, while you're growing, I want to grow with you. So again, I ask you about the cost of indecisions. I'm throwing a lot of different things at you, but I want you to think about these things. I'd rather have you say, yo, you're too much, bye, I'm out. It's okay. It's your data on YouTube that you're watching, that you're using, right? My aim tonight, if I haven't said it loud enough, is that you need to gain clarity on what you want. So, in one thing, just to wrap up this part of gaining clarity and get into the second half, because again, I don't want to overdo the fun stuff because I like to talk and really just get into stuff. I want to say, when I was listening to Brendan Bouchard in this week, the one thing that was so fascinating for me, he says, stop browsing for inspiration, start studying for instruction. And I was like, yeah, baby, we dropped the mic. Why? Because at that time, I was going through a podcast, okay, and I said to myself, you know what? I know Brendan Bouchard has got some YouTube stuff as well, right? How could I simplify it? Because sometimes when I am preparing something for YouTube, I've got 75 million words. But because I know that you don't have the whole day for me to make my point, I want to get it in the most simplest words without leaving myself confused, let alone anyone else that is listening. And when I was going to get simpler words, I came across this and I'm like, thank you. Because what am I doing right now? I'm studying for instruction. Because studying and rather should I say sharing on a daily basis, 3 to 5 times a week on YouTube, I need to be on top of my game. Maybe one day I may say something wrong and then somebody else goes and makes a decision on that. I'm like, oh, in my disclaimer, I did say I'm not a what. You know, I don't want to get there. I want to rather say, okay, I eat humble pie. Did I make a mistake somewhere? Because at the end of the day, while you yourself are studying to get instruction to move forward, you also want to be confident in things, right? And the second part that I learned in all of this, in terms of gaining clarity on where am I going, I learned, you see, there's two pictures I've got on the screen right now. There's one picture where you can see it's almost Christmas, né? That's how I thought, let me just take this one. On one side, it looks like they're trying to put some Christmas lights. The other side, it looks like these guys went to go and buy everything in the store. So I want to call this, if you are trying something, you're going to look like the house on the left-hand side, my left. I hope it's your left too. If you're actually saying to yourself, you know what? I've listened for too long. I've gained instruction and I'm not doing the things that I'm doing. I keep on browsing for inspiration. I keep on listening to the next best person to tell me the next best thing. I'm looking for that bullet that's going to make things right. Sometimes you actually need to say, you know what? I'm all in this thing called property investing, or I'm all in whatever thing it is that you're after in your life. And I'm going to be like those guys on the right hand side. They were not dabbling, they went all in. TJ and I were not dabbling, we went all in. Guys, we had at that point, we felt, and in hindsight, I still think it's true, we had nothing to lose. because we had nothing. In fact, nothing is better than growing debt. And when we really got to understanding that it was 5 million, I sobbed like there was no tomorrow. I sobbed as if somebody killed me. You know, guys, it was a funeral. That's what we call it in our house. It was like a funeral. But what I learned from that funeral is that nobody, that is nobody, is going to stop me from doing the thing I want. So you're going to find people that are trolls in your life. They're going to comment. They're going to dislike what you do. It's okay, baby. Love and lights to you, baby. Why? Because do the most. Tell yourself, I'm here to go all in. And that is the chapter on gaining clarity. And I trust that that has helped you guys. I want to find out from you, does that make sense to you? I see that there are a few people watching right now. Is there somebody that, wants to drop a comment down for me to say, you know what, Jen, you are making sense and I'm following what you're saying. I would really, really love to hear from you down in the comments below. All right. I see that it's not as many people that's joined us today, which I am okay with. Me, I've got no issues. Why? Because I committed to being here. While you do type something in the comments, I want to say thank you. But if you say to yourself, oh, typing is a lot right now, just smash the like button. You know what it will do? It will encourage the YouTube algorithm saying, you know what, we actually like what this chick is saying. So please show this video to other people as well. All right, so moving on, let's get into the overall strategy of any property investment strategy. And I also want to pick up my momentum because I'm talking for a time. I see there's somebody else that has joined. Thank you for joining us. And if you're liking things so far, again, don't be shy, hit the like button. So the overall strategy of any property investment strategy is raising, one of the first few things is raising funds. Raising funds is by far the most talked about thing ever. In fact, yesterday I did a video on YouTube and it was entitled, how do I make money out of property? And I gave some funding tips that we had learned along the way. Now, I don't want to make funding sound romantic. The bottom line is you need to put your back into property investing. And this is now gaining clarity as you get into the property investment space, right? Because right now we've gained clarity that you are here for the reason of doing property. Now we want to actually clarify, okay, now that you are here for that, there's a strategy that goes with it. And the property investment strategy is, so where the heck do I get the money from? There's multiple ways that you can get money. The one I want to address is one of my, I want to call it a pet hate. Okay. And the reason why, I'm going to explain it to you in a minute. Finding an investor. You see, this can be really difficult. And I'm going to tell you for two reasons why it's difficult. Many people want to start in property investing. Just like us, we had no money down. So we thought, how best could we use OPM, which is other people's money, right? And we needed to learn the hard way. So on that 4th of August that I was telling you about, when we signed the offer to purchase, we knew our money was in, 1,000 Rand of it. At that time, 1,000 was so much money in our lives. You would never believe. And then Andrew, who was our coach at that time, said, oh, I've got a student that I can connect you with. And he connected us. And when we got connected with the gentleman, I remember the first time TJ and the gentleman met. And then I'm waiting when he comes home, like, oh, we got the money, we got the money. Well, hey, it was funny because I said, babe, like you just look me. I said, babe, what's the deal? What's the deal? And he said to me, yo, this guy was asking me about you. Do I have children? He was asking about everything in my personal life. And when I was ready to talk about the deal, he says, let's meet next week and we'll talk about it. And guys, you will see why it's a pet hate, because so many people make it sound so simple, like there is a picking of property investors, and they are, but you just need to know how to get there, right? It sounds like they are this bowl of people that you can just go and pick out and say, please give me your money, and they're going to give you the money. It doesn't work like that. You need to build relationship. You need to be able to show somebody else When we are using your money, we're going to be making money. And if your money is making money, then that means the money that's made money must also make money. Okay? It must be a whole chain reaction. It's all about building relationships. And I want to say, for those of you that have gone for property investing in a huge property investing class like I did, I was one of 150 people or something crazy like that, right? Imagine the people that are learning with you the same skill are your property investors. That's what it took me a long time to get that a long time. Why? Because I had a preconceived idea of what a property investor actually is. That's the closest person to you. At least you could relate. When the trainer said 1 2, what did you say? What did you could connect still, right? the, so I want to say, in terms of finding an investor, you need to build a relationship. And if you're not in the space of like-minded people, whether it's going to be online or when we are able to meet in gatherings that meet the level that we are in, those requirements, if we are not able to make relationship or build relationship with people, the raising fund idea of using an investor's money, poof, goes out the window. The second component to that is there is those companies where you can type and you ask, they're venture capitalists. They will invest in your deal. All right. There are places like APSA. APSA's actually got a special product. And when you go and you say, I'm an investor and I'm wanting to invest, and I want to apply for funds so that I can invest in property XYZ, they look, I think it's called the buy to let something. They look at certain criteria before they give you that funding. Now, there are other venture capitalists that say, you know what, let us look at the deal. And based on what the deal says, we can give you the money. Now, just imagine one of the later points I'm going to talk about is actually learn your numbers. Just imagine you didn't go for education to work out your numbers, and you're sitting in front of an investor telling them that this is going to cash flow, and boom, there's nothing. Dololo. Eh? Ha. You don't even say, well, one of my things as a sourcing agent is that a sourcing agent sometimes is a hit and miss depending on who you are servicing. If I service any of the investors, 9 out of 10 times, because of my history with investors, I've seen those investors getting between 80 and 90% loan to value. So when I work out my numbers, sometimes I'm working on 80%, sometimes 90, sometimes 95%. I've had one investor, one, and they were very clear with it. One that actually got 100% loan to value. In fact, they didn't get 100% loan to value. Let me take that back. What they did was they had a good loan to value and they topped it up with equity. So in their world, work the numbers out in 100% loan to value, because the money that they're putting in is money that they wouldn't have had anyway. It was money that came to them. I didn't want to ask how. But nonetheless, I'm just sharing with you, okay? So equity is another one. What is equity? So you bought this property and you've been staying in this property for more than 10 years. You've been paying this property faithfully. But if you have to market this property and sell it, it's no longer going to be worth maybe the 200,000 that you bought it for. The area has now gone up. There's capital appreciation. So now it is worth 500,000. That's equity. That difference of what you paid versus what it's currently worth. And it's up to, it's not the entire amount. Then there's other things that are called joint ventures. That's what we did on the 4th of August, where we came in with the skill. Even though our property investor had the skill because we were in the class together, he came in with the money. So which then meant, as property investors ourselves, doing sourcing, because sourcing, joint ventures, back-to-back deals, angel investors, those were our avenues. We needed to have things 100% in order, because we were saying to another investor, come on board with us, we're going to make money in this deal. So those are the different ways of raising funds. Then for those of you who I'm working on a video on my learnings about the backroom industry. It's a 10 billion rand industry. 10 billion rand. That is barely, It's like the Stokvel industry, guys. There's so much potential. So many of us have been brought up with a backroom proceeds. Sometimes there's somebody that will be brought up with that, not realizing your mom and dad or gogo was actually a property investor and you didn't look at it as a property investing. Guys, there's so many ways to raise funds. And at the end of the day, why I'm talking about I'm a backroom is that there is a website called TUHF, TUHF. When you Google them, you'll read up about them. But when you scroll right down to the bottom, you will see another word called umastandi. Don't shoot me, okay? It's UMASTANDI, umastandi. And when you read up about them, they finance property entrepreneurs that are wanting to build in townships. Guys, there is so much abundance out there, and some people are worried about, this one's going to steal my idea. They'll steal it, but they'll never be able to implement it the way you will. Just drop the mic. I'm trusting that raising funds is clear on your end. The next part of the overall strategy of any property investment strategy is establishing your property investment strategy. As I've been sharing with you so much, we established that it was creative finance, joint venture, deal sourcing, back-to-back deals, angel investors. We could not go to the bank. Okay? So at the end of the day, I think the better question right now to ask in establishing your property investment strategy, are you looking for capital or are you looking for income? And there's a very simple reason. What do I mean? Let me simplify these. Are you looking to collect rent on a monthly basis, which equals your passive income? Or are you looking to get a lump sum of money, whether it's a flip, whether it's sourcing a deal, whether it's a back-to-back strategy? Okay, you get a lump sum of money, because joint ventures, you and your partner could say you're going to, going into rentals instead of flips. Sometimes when you get money from an angel investor, you could say this is for the long haul. So that's why I'm not adding them here. When you ask yourself, which one am I after? This ties back to your plan. Remember the plan that I was talking about in gaining clarity? It talks back to your plan, because at the end of the day, if you say, actually, I'm looking for passive income. So if you're getting passive income, what do you want to do with the passive income? The first thing should not be, I want to resign, because that's not what clever property investors do. What property investors do, they generally say, I'm after passive income. They're going to get this one property, giving them rent. The next property, giving them rent. The next property, giving them rent. 3 properties, for example, are giving you rent. The bank is going to consider that rental income, all right? Then they'll be able to leverage that rental income and continue building their portfolio. It goes back to their plan on what did I get into property investing for? To pop bottles after 6 months? No, because it's not about upgrading your lifestyle in 6 months or 1 year or in 2 years for that matter. Property is a business and you want to put this business in place. All right. Now, if you say, actually, no, I want capital because I intend to use this capital this way. I get money from a sourcing deal, I put it away. I get money from a sourcing deal, I put it away. Whoops, I've done a back-to-back deal, I put it away. Now that I've got this lump sum of money, now I want to go and buy that property in Kempton Park that I saw, 2-bed, 1-bath for 160,000 Rand cash. There are people that do that. They go in and they buy that property cash. They do what they need to do cash. And guess what? In a short period of time, they go back to the bank and say to the bank, please, can you refinance my property? Meaning they tap into equity. They get the money out of the deal and they go and buy another one like that. Why? Because the person that is renting, the renter that is in place, is now paying and taking care of the financing costs and everything else that goes with it. So again, establish your property investment strategy and connect it directly to your goal. Because if you've gone to on your On your bank statement, you've gone to cancel all these unnecessary things, and then you're also getting that little bit of money, nyana, and you're getting all of these pockets of money. You need to be able to understand what you're doing with that collective money. And you know what, guys? Buying a new wardrobe, even if you desperately need it, if you feel like you desperately need it, is that really the end goal of what you're working towards? Again, I'm not shooting your desire down. I mean, I'd love to buy a whole new wardrobe. Actually, what I'd love is somebody to come and take my measurements and they go and buy me a whole new wardrobe, just as long as I don't look naked on the road with the clothes that they buy. But again, establish your property investment strategy, because it all goes back to your plan. Because when you got your plan there, right, and you get this money, what if you, like TJ and I, you get that first sum of money and then you go and you pay that small debt? That one person is no longer going to phone you anymore. You will not hear from them ever again in your life, because you say, we're breaking up forever. And you keep doing that and you keep doing it. So psychologically, you're getting excited because you're eliminating these pieces of debt because of the money that you're getting in from investing in your strategy, to a point where you actually psychologically are so pumped up that you feel like you're letting yourself down if you don't find a deal. This is how interconnected our clarity is about how we are going to get into the property market, and not so much about the romance that can come from property. Give it time, guys. The romance will get there, but give it time. So I think I've labored that point enough. Let me just pick up some speed, because we are all, we're almost on an hour and I said 45 minutes. I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry. But I just want to see if we're still all there and you guys are with me. If there's anyone that wants to comment, feel free now. And again, if there's anyone that likes the point that I've just made, slam dunk on that like button. But moving along swiftly, the overall strategy of any property investment strategy is saying, you know what? I need to do some property market research. Do I need to drive the area that I'm interested in? Or before I even drive the area, is there something else that I could do? And let's do this here quickly. I wanted to share something with you. It is called a wonderful online tool. You go to Google, you type TPN. When you get to TPN, it is the TPN Credit Bureau, the Tenant Property Network. When you get in here, go to the shop. While I'm doing this, TPN does not pay me. They do not know that I talk about them so much. I swear if we were in a relationship, they would love me forever. Then you go to property reports, because I just want to give you a tool, a practical tool, guys. Just now we spoke about tough. I'll actually show you how to get to tough and what I was talking about just now. There's something called an investor report. Now, this investor report provides property investors, aspiring property investors, and managing agents with invaluable insights into the area that you are interested in, right? For 28.75, I just want to drop the mic. Real life data of a month, you click on generate report. I made sure that I'm not logged in, so that I go about this process as the way you would go about it, right? In here, you'd be able to select, you know what, I'm interested in area or in city or in municipal level, whatever it is that you're investing in, right? So let's go into suburb level. Say, for example, I'm interested in Florida, and I type Florida. It's going to tell me, be specific, Florida who, you know what I mean? Because here you'll find all sorts of Floridas in Roodepoort. You'll find Florida Parow, and Parow is in Cape Town. There's even Florida in Durban, okay? So just be specific about which one. So if you say to yourself, okay, Florida, Roodepoort, it actually zones in. This is where you are interested in, and you are able to say, click on buy now. Because when you buy now, you will get 1 month's data of what's happening in Florida, the investors, people that are buying in this particular area, people that are renting in this area, the demographics of different people, and things like that, right? So that's one way that you can do some property market research. Just to go back a little bit, remember just now I spoke of tough. So for those that are interested in a backroom industry, or in or within actually even the CBD, some of the rundown buildings. This is what tough finances. You can go through them. Also, I'm not affiliated to tough. It's tools and tricks that I came along around my journey, and it felt like when we went via tough, we had to leave our DNA there, right? Then when you go into umastandi, you'll say be able to say read more, and this is the one that I was talking about earlier. So it literally tells you, are you interested in becoming a successful property entrepreneur, and a whole lot of stuff on that line. So nonetheless, let's go back into, I just would love that I actually, finish on in good time. My bad. Cool. So that's property research, or you can drive the area. Now let's start speeding things up again. Your overall strategy of any property investment, your overall strategy of any property investing or property investment strategy is learning which numbers matter. The numbers that matter is when I collect rent, if I minus, there's a rental income, there's my financing cost, which is the bond, and there's my monthly operating cost, which is levies, rates and taxes, electricity, and things like that. Now, when I take my income and I take away my expenses from there, I'm left with my cash flow. But you see, as a property investor, you start thinking of things like property management fee, your void, meaning is, when there's nobody staying there, have you collected money to make provision for that? Your maintenance costs, have you collected money in case the geyser bursts or something on that nature? Then when you understand why exit strategies are important, the whole idea is, what is your objective for buying property? It goes back to your plan. If you said, I am buying property so that I can leverage off equity, which means I'm buying a under market value property, I am fixing it up and I'm renting it out to people. Okay, I'm giving it time so that the bank can see that I'm getting an income. And I go to the bank and say, please, can you finance my property up to market value? Or please, could I have some of the money that is in the bond? Because I want to use equity so that I can take that money and go and buy a different property, or whatever the case is. My suggestion is use a bond originator if you need to. So if the plan doesn't work, if that particular plan doesn't work, could you start thinking of different ways of making money out of that property? Would you have to sell it, or would you have to use strategies like multi-let or Airbnb? Or what are the other strategies that you can use to actually make money? Again, going back to who do you have in your corner? My thing always goes back to, who is it that is pumping you with information? Are you coming to YouTube? Do you already have the information? Have you already gone through coaching? Those are the different questions I want you to sit down and ask. Who do I need in my corner? Everybody says, hey, get a coach. You know what, guys? It's all good and well to get a coach. My question is, have you followed somebody long enough to actually understand them? Did you actually do due diligence on the person that you're interested in having as a coach? Are they showing you the true side? Those are the things that I would love you to look at. And as I come to a close for this particular session, I want to say that you can do it. You need to stay strong and power on, because they decided, just like TJ and I, we decided to go all in, and we were not dabbling. Even when friends looked at us funny, when we couldn't afford to do something and we stayed at home, it was okay. It was okay that I didn't have affordability to do some of the things that I love doing. But I love me a little bit of sorbet. I love me a little bit of pampering. And when I didn't have, it was okay. Why? Because of my plan. I had to gain clarity in understanding what is it that I wanted from this big bad thing called property investing. So I want to say thank you for your time. I know I've gone over time. I do humbly apologize, but you know what? There's so much to say, and I tried my best to want to say it in 45 minutes. And I want to say, for those of you that are still watching, thank you so much. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, join the tribe, because I do post 3 to 4 times in the week, and I'm going to swiftly also be moving on to a lot of things that I do in terms of business. And for those of you that are asking about, Jen, when are you training us, Justin J, here face to face? I am running a live class at the end, towards the end of October. I'll leave all those links down in the description below. That is a byproduct, and that is me answering a number of people at the same time. So I hope you don't mind that I actually mentioned that, because today's live stream is really just helping you in terms of gaining clarity on where you're going to, what hat you need to be wearing, and the importance of gaining clarity. Because you know what, guys, a lot of the times we can be bamboozled by people, by the things that they say. I'm not saying that I am the most perfect, but what I'm saying is, if there's anything, I just believe that when you are doing something, if you don't know why you're doing it, you're going to be taken with the wind. So thank you so much, Stevens, for that clarity galore. I'm loving this. I'm absolutely glad that you are loving this. So I want to ask, is if there's no questions, it's all good. If there are questions, drop in the comments below. I will still answer it a little bit later. And if you are watching this in future, guys, between the 19th of October and the 22nd, I literally am starting the fundamentals of property investing. I do have an online recorded product, but there has been a request. Actually, there's been a bullying of a situation. Maybe I should report people there. There's been a bullying of a situation of, Jen, I need you to do this, and I need you to do this live. So we literally over 4 days, 2 hours every evening, and it's a special edition where I'm going to end off running the numbers on the calculator, just like I did on the last live stream that I did. And I'll also pluck this up when I'm talking about numbers in the session. Otherwise, take care, be safe, and I look forward to serving you more.